The night my grandmother threatened my parents with criminal charges, the room went silent. But that wasn't the beginning. The beginning was 6 years earlier, when I learned exactly how much it costs to be the strong son. My name is Cora Thomas. I'm 28. 6 years ago, instead of filling out college housing forms, I signed enlistment papers. Not because I dreamed of serving, not because I felt some heroic calling. I enlisted because my parents handed my entire $200,000 college fund to my younger sister, Madison. You'll figure it out, they told me. You always do. 5 casual words. That was all it took to reroute my life. Madison moved into a private university dorm, decorated in fairy lights and framed motivational quotes. I moved into basic training. She posted smiling photos captioned, "So blessed." I learned how to strip down an M16 in under a minute. She studied abroad in Barcelona. I worked night shifts and counted every dollar. She had tuition paid in full. I earned my degree one online class at a time through military benefits. And through it all, my parents' social media was a shrine to her. Proud of our college girl. Hard work pays off. When I sent updates, obstacle courses completed, promotions earned, I got short replies. Good job. Stay safe. Sometimes nothing at all. But the favoritism didn't start with college money. It started when I was 12. I brought home straight A's. My mom glanced at the report card and said, "We knew you could do it." That was the celebration. The next week, Madison got a B+ in math. They took her to her favorite restaurant and praised her effort for an hour. I remember staring at my plate, wondering what invisible rule I'd broken. By 16, the pattern was obvious. If you struggled, you were supported. If you succeeded, you were ignored. Madison got tutors. I taught myself. She got a college consultant. I spent afternoons alone in the library researching scholarships. On my 16th birthday, I got a lecture about financial responsibility. On hers, she got a car. When I asked why everything felt different, my mom smiled like she was explaining something obvious. Madison needs more support. You're mature. You understand. And I did understand. I understood that being capable made you invisible. My Aunt Helen saw it. One Thanksgiving, she told my dad straight to his face, "You're taking advantage of him. Just because he doesn't ask for help doesn't mean he doesn't need it." My dad shrugged. "Cora's fine. He always is." That confidence in my resilience cost me $400,000. 3 months before graduation, I sat at the kitchen table with my acceptance letter to State University, partial scholarship. I just needed the college fund my grandparents had set up for both of us. My parents exchanged a look before my mom spoke. "We need to talk about the fund. Madison will need the full amount," my dad said. "Her grades aren't as strong. She needs the same opportunities." The words didn't register at first. "The full amount?" Grandpa set it up for both of us. "It's family money," my mom snapped. "We're doing what's best for the family. So, I get nothing?" "You got a scholarship," my dad replied. "You're resourceful." Then my mom stood up, ending the conversation. "You'll figure it out. You always do." 3 months later, I was in basic training. 6 years passed in discipline, deployments, and distance. I finished my degree online. I came home with discharge papers, a duffel bag, and 4 months of savings. The welcome home dinner felt like I was a guest at someone else's celebration. Madison was applying to MBA programs, Harvard, Stanford, Wharton. My parents beamed. When I mentioned looking into project management jobs, my dad nodded vaguely. "That's nice." Nobody asked what deployment was like. Nobody asked if I was okay. That night I lay in my childhood bed and realized something brutal. I had been gone 6 years, and no one had actually missed me. 3 weeks later, I found a veteran support group. That's where I met Jake. He understood the silence you carry home from service. One evening, he asked why I'd enlisted. I told him everything. The fund, the dismissal, the years watching my sister live the life that should have been partly mine. When I finished, he asked one question that hit harder than anything else. "Did your grandmother actually agree to give her all the money?" I froze. I had never asked. "People call you strong when they don't want to support you," Jake said quietly. "Strength doesn't mean you don't deserve help." That night, I remembered something my grandmother had told me years earlier. Some things aren't what they seem. The crack widened on a Tuesday morning. Madison texted the family group chat. She'd been accepted into Northwestern's MBA program. Tuition, $120,000. My mom responded instantly. "We'll help with tuition." Of course they would. Then my dad added, "Your military benefits covered your degree." Madison's education. I stared at the screen, something inside me finally snapping. My military benefits covered my degree because they took what was mine. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't going to just figure it out quietly. "My benefits covered a state school," I typed back into the family group chat, my hands steady even though my chest felt hollow. Madison got private university and now an MBA, both paid from what was supposed to be our fund. My mom responded instantly. "Here we go again. When will you stop being bitter? We did what was best." Madison chimed in seconds later. "Seriously, Cora, you're ruining my moment." This is why mom and dad focus on me. I don't create drama. I read that message 3 times, not angry, not even surprised, just cold. Instead of replying with what I really wanted to say, I scrolled to a number I'd avoided for months. Aunt Helen picked up on the second ring. I need Grandma Eleanor's number, I said, and I need the truth about that college fund. There was a long silence. Then she exhaled softly. It's about time. I called my grandmother that night. She answered immediately like she'd been waiting. Cora, she said, calm and steady, I wondered when you'd ask. Grandma, did you agree to give my entire share of the trust to Madison? The silence that followed wasn't hesitation. It was controlled anger. They told you I agreed? She asked, her voice sharpening. Yes, they said it was a family decision. That, she said clearly, is a lie. My pulse started pounding in my ears. Your grandfather and I created that trust with explicit instructions, she continued. $200,000 for each grandchild, distributed at 18, equal, non-negotiable, equal. The word hit harder than any insult ever had. They said, I know what they said, she interrupted. I waited because I hoped they'd correct themselves. I hoped they'd see what they were doing to you. A pause. I was wrong. My voice dropped. Are you telling me they just took it? I'm telling you your father, as trustee, violated the terms. I've already contacted David Brennan. He's been investigating. Investigating. That word changed everything. The email arrived at 11 p.m., subject line, Thomas Family Trust, confidential. Jake sat beside me as I opened it. The first attachment was the original trust document, dated before I was born. The language was unmistakable. $200,000 for each grandchild at age 18, equal distribution. The second attachment showed withdrawal records. Starting the month I turned 18, transfers began, every dollar routed to accounts in Madison's name or directly to her university. $400,000, not a cent to me. Then came the final document, an amendment to the trust dated 3 months after my 18th birthday. It authorized flexible distribution at trustee's discretion, supposedly signed by my grandmother. Beneath it, David's note was blunt. Signature analysis complete. This is a forgery. Even without legal training, I could see it. The loops were wrong, the pressure uneven. Jake read over my shoulder. Your father forged her signature. That's fraud, I whispered. The final paragraph laid it out in cold legal language. Embezzlement, breach of fiduciary duty, forgery, multiple felonies. My phone buzzed. The question isn't whether you have a case, David texted. It's whether you want to pursue it. The next morning, I drove to my parents' house with the documents printed in my bag. My dad opened the door, smiling at first. The smile vanished when he saw my face. I walked straight to the kitchen and placed the papers on the counter. Explain this. He scanned the first page. The color drained from his face. Where did you get these? Grandma's attorney. My mom appeared in the doorway. What's going on? He forged her signature, I said evenly. He stole my share. It's not that simple, my dad muttered. Yes, it is. 200,000 for me, 200,000 for Madison. You took all of it. Your father did what he had to, my mom snapped. Madison needed full support. Then you should have asked Grandma to change it legally, not commit a crime. We'll pay you back, my dad said quickly. Just don't make this public. Think about Madison's career. 6 years in uniform flashed through my mind. Night shifts, student loans, the quiet humiliation of being told to be grateful. Now you're worried about consequences? As I reached the door, he called after me. She's graduating next month. Don't ruin her party. I turned back once. I'm not ruining anything, I said. The truth will do that. 3 weeks later, I stood inside the ballroom at Riverside Country Club. 150 guests, faculty from Northwestern, extended family, my parents' colleagues. A banner overhead read, Congratulations, Madison. A slideshow looped photos of her achievements, not a single image of me in uniform. My mom rushed over. Please just smile and be happy today. I'm here, I said. That was all I'd promised. Then my grandmother arrived. Burgundy dress, pearls, absolute composure. Beside her stood David Brennan, carrying a leather briefcase. Across the room, my grandmother caught my eye and gave me a small, deliberate nod. My dad stepped to the microphone. I want to talk about sacrifice, he began warmly. We made tough choices as parents. We invested everything in Madison's future. Applause rippled through the room. We believed in her from the beginning, he continued, emotion thick in his voice. We did whatever it took. My hands tightened under the table. Whatever it took. Even fraud, even theft, even forging his own mother's name. Madison stood beside them, dabbing at her eyes while the crowd admired their devotion. And then my 82-year-old grandmother rose from her seat, calm, unshaken, ready. My father lifted his glass higher, smiling like a man who believed his own legend. Some people said we gave Madison too much support, he said warmly. I say we gave her exactly what she needed, and now we get to watch her soar. Applause rolled through the ballroom, glasses clinked, pride filled the air. I sat perfectly still, watching him turn theft into wisdom and fraud into parental devotion. Let's toast, he declared, to Madison's future and to parents who believe in investing in excellence. That's when my grandmother stood up. The silence that followed felt different, heavy, charged. Before we toast, she said calmly, I'd like to say something. My father's smile stiffened. Mom, this isn't the time. Oh, I think it is, Richard. She walked slowly toward the front. David Brennan followed, briefcase in hand. You just spoke about sacrifice. Let's talk about what was actually sacrificed. Conversations died mid-sentence. Chairs turned, Madison's face drained of color. David, my grandmother said, please. He opened the briefcase and began handing folders to key tables, professors, extended family, colleagues. Curiosity turned into concentration as pages were flipped. What is this? Madison whispered. The truth about your education fund, my grandmother replied gently. Then she faced the room. 28 years ago, my husband and I established a trust. $400,000, $200,000 for Cora, $200,000 for Madison. Equal distribution, non-negotiable. Paper rustled. No one spoke. She pointed at me. Cora received nothing. He joined the military to afford college, while his legally designated funds were drained. Madison shook her head. Dad said you agreed. I never agreed, my grandmother cut in. Your father forged my signature. Gasps rippled outward like a shockwave. David stepped forward. The documents in your hands show 6 years of withdrawals, $400,000 transferred exclusively for Madison's education. This constitutes embezzlement. Mom, we can discuss this privately, my father stammered. You had 10 years to discuss it privately, she replied. Instead, you lied. Then she said the words that detonated the room. I am pressing charges. Madison stood so fast her chair scraped loudly. No, Dad, my father opened his mouth. Nothing came out. One of Madison's professors approached her slowly. Madison, is this accurate? Your funding came from misappropriated trust assets? I didn't know, she choked. I swear. Another professor was scanning the bank statements. This is not a family misunderstanding. This is fraud. My mother shot to her feet. You're overreacting, but the room had shifted. Whispers spread fast and ugly. He forged his own mother's name. 400,000. He let his son enlist while he paid for her tuition. Madison turned to me, mascara streaking. You did this. You ruined my graduation. I met her eyes calmly. I didn't do anything. The truth did. And there's more, my grandmother said. David removed another document. There was a second trust, he explained, established by Eleanor's late husband's first wife, $50,000 per grandchild. The room tightened. That money, he continued, was also transferred entirely to Madison. My Aunt Helen stood abruptly. Richard, you stole from 2 trusts? My father's composure collapsed. I just wanted her to have every advantage, he sobbed. I was going to pay him back. You had 10 years, my grandmother said coldly. Instead, you bought a new car. David wasn't finished. Approximately $30,000 from the trust accounts was used for non-educational expenses, credit card debt, renovations, vacation deposits. The implication hung there. They hadn't just stolen for Madison. They'd stolen for themselves. Madison looked at my father like she didn't recognize him. You told me it was my money, that I earned it. You did earn your degree, he pleaded. With stolen funds, she shot back. Everyone here thinks I'm a fraud. You're not, I said quietly. You did the work. You just didn't know. But reputations don't care about nuance. An MBA cohort member stood up and walked out, then another. A consulting supervisor gestured sharply. Madison, we need to speak privately. Her perfect day was unraveling thread by thread. My grandmother sat down, suddenly looking older but unshaken. I gave Richard chances, she told the room. 3 years ago, I asked him directly if Cora received his share. He lied. Last year, I asked again. He lied again. David raised the final set of bank statements. The evidence supports criminal charges. My father was openly sobbing now. Not dramatic, not performative, just broken. I thought I was helping, he gasped. No one wanted to hear his reasoning anymore. The country club manager approached my mother quietly. We'll need the bill settled immediately. Even the venue didn't want association. Relatives began leaving, quietly, quickly. My uncle approached my father. Remember that $15,000 I lent you? Was that a lie too? No answer. Madison returned from her supervisor meeting, hollow-eyed. She walked straight past our parents and stopped in front of me. My offer's been rescinded, she said flatly. Ethical concerns about funding sources. Jake's hand tightened around mine under the table. They said I can reapply in a year if this is resolved, she continued. But everyone knows now. This wasn't victory. It was fallout. An hour later, in a smaller side room, David laid everything out. Criminal charges are filed. The district attorney will decide prosecution. Civilly, you're entitled to full restitution plus damages. What happens to them? I asked. Probation likely, possible jail time if the DA pushes aggressively. Restitution regardless. And Madison's degree? It stands. She completed the academic requirements. Her reputation, however, that's another matter. I stared at the numbers. 250,000 plus interest. 6 years of struggle that never should have existed. This isn't about revenge, David said carefully. It's about making you whole. I don't want Madison punished, I said. She didn't know. I want what was stolen, and I want them to understand they can't do this. My grandmother nodded slowly. That's the right reason. Outside in the parking lot, my parents were waiting. We walked out of the country club into cold night air. My dad's eyes were swollen. My mom looked furious. You've destroyed this family, she snapped. Are you happy now? I didn't destroy anything, I said calmly. You did, 10 years ago. My dad stepped closer, voice shaking. What do you want from us? My $250,000 with interest, and for you to finally understand what you did. We don't have that kind of money, my mom shot back. Then you'll make a payment plan. David will arrange it. My dad's voice cracked. We're still your parents. I looked at him for a long moment, all the years of being invisible, all the times I was told I was strong enough not to need help. And I'm still your son, I said quietly. The one you stole from, the one you dismissed, the one you sacrificed because it was convenient. I swallowed the ache in my throat. I loved you, I trusted you, and you hurt me to protect a lie. That's not parenting, that's betrayal. Please, he whispered, I need space. When you're ready to make real amends, not just apologize because you got caught, then we can talk. My mom's face twisted. After everything we've done for you. You did nothing for me, I replied. That's the point. Jake opened the car door. I got in without looking back. As we drove away, I saw my grandmother walking toward them. Whatever she had left to say, they would hear it without me. Walking away from my parents was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was necessary. 2 weeks later, my aunt forwarded me an email thread. Madison's consulting offer had been formally rescinded. The wording was polished but brutal. Reputational risk. I stared at the screen. How do you feel? Jake asked. Sad, I admitted. She worked hard. You can want accountability and still feel compassion, he said. He was right. I hadn't called her firm. I hadn't asked anyone to punish her. The truth had moved on its own. 3 months after the party, I sat in a courthouse conference room while David reviewed the final agreement. My father pleaded guilty to reduced charges, embezzlement, and breach of fiduciary duty. The forgery charge was dropped in exchange for cooperation. He would serve probation, not jail time. Restitution, $250,000 plus interest. About $280,000 total. 10-year payment plan, $2,800 a month. Mandatory financial counseling. Permanent removal as trustee from any family trust. He'll never hold financial authority again, David said. I signed. My father refinanced their house, liquidated part of his retirement. My mother went back to full-time work. 3 weeks later, the first $2,800 hit my account. I transferred it straight into investments. I didn't celebrate. I didn't spend it. That money represented 6 stolen years. Are you ever going to treat yourself? Jake asked. Maybe when it feels earned instead of returned, I said. 6 months later, Madison texted me. Can we talk? We met at a cafe. She looked different, less polished, more real. I'm not here to make excuses, she said. I knew they favored me. I just didn't question it because it benefited me. That's honest, I said. I got a job, she continued. Smaller firm, and I'm in therapy. She slid a paper across the table. A voluntary payment plan, $500 a month. The court didn't order this, she said. But it's right. I studied her for a long moment. I'm not ready to go back to how we were, I said. I know, she replied. I just want to be better. That was the first honest conversation we'd ever had. Thanksgiving that year I spent with Jake's family, warm, loud, no silent resentments under the surface. My mom texted, "You're really not coming?" I replied, I said I needed space. Later, my dad sent an email. Not defensive, not vague. He named everything. The theft, the forgery, the lies, the harm. I let you believe you weren't worth supporting, he wrote. That was wrong. I read it 3 times. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a beginning. With the restitution payment steady, I made decisions without desperation guiding me. First, I paid off my student loans in one transfer. The relief was physical. Second, I put a down payment on a small condo, nothing flashy, but mine. Then I did something I didn't expect. I started building a mentorship program for veterans transitioning to civilian life. If that money was meant for education, I would make sure it actually served that purpose. 3 months later, I filed the paperwork for the Thomas Education Initiative, named after my grandfather. At the first meeting, 12 veterans showed up. We talked about resumes, interviews, the strange loneliness of coming home. One woman said, "I feel invisible." "I know," I told her, "so did I." 18 months after my grandmother stood up at that party, I see things clearly. I wasn't wrong for being hurt. I was wrong for staying silent. Peace built on silence isn't peace. It's permission. My dad and I have dinner once a month now. Boundaries in place. Slow progress. My mom is still angry it became public. That's her journey, not mine. Madison and I talk occasionally. We're not close, but we're honest. My grandmother remains unshakable. She taught me that dignity isn't quiet endurance. It's refusing to accept injustice, even from family. I don't regret pressing charges. I regret that it was necessary. But if the choice is between family comfort and self-respect, I choose self-respect because real love requires accountability, and sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop pretending everything is fine.